For those unfamiliar with the book or what the movie's about, could you just set up the dog stars?
You really want me to do that? I mean, that's a very difficult question, but it is it's apocalyptic. People would call it the end of the world, but I think it's the lull before the beginning of the world, the renewal of the world, put it that way. I saw that in it. And because I'm dying to do a Western, I also saw it was a bit of a Western in it. It's how you survive, except you're not on a horse, you're in a Cessna, which is clapped out, and he shouldn't be flying it, but he's so good. So it's like Clint Eastwood on the horse. That's it. So I was attracted by that.
That was a good one.
Jacob, how would you describe the relationship between Hig and Bangley? What do you think Hig is ultimately looking for?
Well, Ridley presented the relationship immediately as the odd couple, and sort of pointed to the kind of humor between the two of them and the humor in their reliance on each other, which then kind of led to help me understand the kind of deep love that they actually do have for each other. I think he's just it feels like he says he's searching for humanity, searching for what was, but to me it feels like he's just trying to turn the clock back. He's trying to do everything he can to go back, which is something that we can never do. And I think that's his main motivation. He has this impossible dream of stopping time and reversing it. But he hides it behind, I've got to go forward, I've got to see what's out there, I've got to see what's next, you know?
Ridley, what originally drew you to the story in a post-apocalyptic world?
Well, I avoid apocalyptic movies and zombies. What's the matter with us? Why are we so fascinated by zombies? And by the way, God bless those who do that TV show. God, 5 or 6 years? Are you joking? But God bless you for keeping it alive. But I cannot have a zombie. So, and when it came, I thought, oh, no, not another one of these. But it's all in the writing. And page 2, I'm in. Page 10, I think, oh my God, this is good. Page 30, I've been perspire because he drops the bloody ball. And he didn't. I got to the end and thought, I want to do this. So I pick up a phone, I can do that. And say, I'll do it and say, okay. So,
For both of you, how was it filming in Italy working with all practical sets and location?
food's good.
The best. There was an amazing story before we started filming that you had originally planned to go shoot in Calgary or something like that.
Yeah, ice hockey town.
And he said they sat down for a dinner after location scouting, and he asked for a shrimp cocktail.
And these giant shrimps around.
And he said, you don't want to eat a shrimp cocktail in Canada, so we're shooting in Italy. then we moved the whole movie to Italy.
That said, driving through Canada, there's 3 million acres. You just stop the car, get out, walk in the forest, have a pee, turn around, you're going to get lost, and you're going to die within 5 or 6 days because there's wolves and bears. But Canada is just stunningly spectacular. But I suddenly thought, I know this area in northern Italy, where the food's better, and the mountains are nearly as good. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Sorry, Canada.
So
I love you dearly.
we ended up doing this incredible tour from under the Dolomites down to Rome, tasting each region's cuisine whilst filming this, practical, hands-on, massive action film. And it felt like we shot at Cinecittà, and it felt like we were making a movie the way that they used to make movies,
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
For those unfamiliar with the book or what the movie's about, could you briefly set up what The Dog Stars is?
Okay. The Dog Stars is about life after the end of the world. It follows Hig, played by Jacob Elordi, who's lost his wife, and he's found himself living with Josh Brolin's character, Bangley. And they've, you know, kind of set up a camp together and built this friendship. And Hig has a inner desire and hope for more and finds himself risking everything for the prospect of a bigger life. And that leads him to my character, Seema, and my character's father, played by Guy Pearce. And they kind of have like a budding friendship.
And then you touched on this a little bit about your character, but what can you tell us about your character, Seema?
Seema, I was so attracted to her hope. She's got this kind of compass towards the sun, and she's a caretaker, and I think a big part of her identity is to help other people. So when Hig shows up, I think it wakes her up and motivates her to keep going.
And then, how was it filming in Italy, working on all the practical sets and locations?
Italy was amazing. It was so beautiful. There's like huge mountains and wide open spaces, and Smokey loved it. And yeah, it was breathtaking.
What makes working with Ridley so unique?
I think one of the things that's so unique about Ridley is even though he's been doing this for so long and he's so confident and he's got this like very well-oiled machine of a set, he treats every day like it's the first time, and he's really interested in even what somebody like me has to say.
And then what about the Dog Stars? Are you excited for people to experience in IMAX?
I mean, the locations are something that you want to see on that big screen, and the horses and the action, and I also think it's such like a kind of sensitive movie at the same time. So to be able to have that experience on the biggest of screens would be amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For those unfamiliar with the book or what the movie's about, could you briefly set up The Dog Stars, what it is?
The Dog Stars is a post-apocalyptic film which is the result of a blood disease, or, you know, I mean, in our way it would be COVID. If COVID were taken further and had a larger effect. And in that, in the people who are left over and who have survived it are having to survive. And when they run out of supplies and all that, they want to get them from something else. So it becomes like a Cormac McCarthy's The Road kind of thing, where everybody's just trying. It becomes a study on selfishness. And yeah, and then it's the relationship, at least from my end, between these two guys. One who's designed something that he's very comfortable with, and a relationship with Hig that he's very comfortable with. And Hig is in the mentality of like, maybe that there's more of this outside. I'm like, why do you want to go outside when you have me?
You did touch on this, but yes.
Yeah.
How do you describe the relationship between Bangley and Higgs? Like, what do you think Bangley's ultimately looking for?
Companionship. And I don't know if anybody would necessarily see that given how he presents himself, because he tries to guilt Hig into staying. He uses all these tactics that I would never use personally, but they're, you know, manly tactics or whatever, things that I've kind of probably looked down on. But I get that he just wants exchange, you know, and even when Hig leaves, even being ambushed is a sense of exchange. So he's welcoming of it. It's the idea of being alone that I think terrifies my character. Yeah.
How was it filming in Italy, working with all the practical set locations?
Like, I'd do anything in Italy. Anything. I mean, that was, it wasn't the reason why I took the movie. Ridley's the reason, and then Jacob and everybody else. But yeah, Italy didn't hurt. I mean, it's so beautiful. I mean, it looks like a David Attenborough, Nat Geo film when you see how beautiful it is and the plane going through and the mountains in the background and the Alps and all that is amazing. But everything about Italy's my place. The people I understand, I'm so animated in our own country in the US. People are like, oh, what's the matter? I go to Italy and it's like the 87-year-old grandmother I understand better than most people I understand back in my own hometown because it's just out there. It's just inviting and welcoming and passionate. And it was great. I loved it. We were in a little village and I was with my family. My kids were there. My wife was there. I have great pictures of them in these like old chapels. And it's just brilliant, brilliant. I felt very lucky to be there.
What makes working with Ridley so unique?
Him. When you're working with a guy who's willing to beat to his own drum, and it looks rebellious, but it's just respectful of yourself. And he's like, look, I want to change genres. I want to challenge myself. You see a lot of filmmakers that were great and then they lost it somehow. I've never seen Ridley lose it. Like, he may have films that people enjoy more than other films, and that's the case with anybody. But as an 88-year-old guy, as long as you can get past the muttering, and I've learned we have such a shorthand at this point. And in the beginning, I panicked. I was like, oh, he's gone insane. And then I realized that there's still such a specific design in him creating something that has a solid ground, but feels like it's chaotic. And I think within that, you get magic, where you wouldn't necessarily with another director who is set on designing his vision. I think he has a vision, but then he also has massive respect with this old school theater mentality of let's experiment. Let's see what else is there. Let's find the diamond that nobody's found, I have high respect for him. I love him very much.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
For all those unfamiliar with the book or the movie about what the movie's about, could you briefly let us know what The Dog Stars is?
Well, The Dog Stars, obviously authored by Peter Haller in his lovely novel, and obviously our adaptation as Ridley Scott's film, looks at a post-apocalyptic world, which I know we've seen many times in books and films before, but there's actually something I think very different about this, particularly initially, obviously, in Peter's book, because there's a dreamlike kind of hopeful quality about almost looking at this post-apocalyptic situation as an opportunity to go, what sort of life do we create now after this? As opposed to it just being a end of the world, this is it, guys, curtains down, done, which I think a lot of post-apocalyptic films kind of tend to do. So there's something really different about the style and the feel of Peter's book and our film. There's a limited number of characters in the film. I play Pops. I play this grumpy old sort of father who has a daughter that Margaret Qualley plays, and I'm trying to protect her. Her mother's died, and I'm just literally there with a gun at the boundary of our property every day, going, if anyone comes in our property, I'm going to kill her. So there's very sort of narrow-minded sort of way of looking at the world. And meanwhile, in another part of the world is Jacob Elordi, who has this small airplane, who just wants to get out and sort of meet people and see if there's other life out there. And he's sort of shacked up with this, ex-military guy played by Josh Brolin called Bangley, who's just as kind of nutty as Pops, probably more emotional. So it's this sort of strange little mixture of characters, and obviously Hig in his small plane comes across our property, and a new relationship begins between Margaret and Jacob's characters. So there is a sense of hope about this world, this this sort of crazy world that we're now living in, you know. So yeah, beautiful story.
You did touch on this, but did you want to dive more into like who is Pops in a sense, besides just being, you know, her father, but like a little bit.
Well, Pops, he's got to when by the time we meet him and his daughter in this film, he's so locked down and so old-fashioned in his pursuit of protecting his daughter that he kind of is blinkered and just doesn't see anything else anymore. He doesn't even see really who his daughter is. He doesn't really understand his daughter. She was probably raised more by the mother who's passed away. He's quite old-fashioned in his inability to show emotion and be emotional and talk about anything emotional. So as far as he's concerned, as I say, it's just this kind of vehement defensiveness, you know, that he's got to protect her. But deep down inside, he wants a better life for her. He knows that he's not going to live forever and that she's going to then be on her own. So he wants her to have a better life. He can't say any of this, but we only start to learn this once Jacob Elordi's character turns up and there's the possibility of them having some sort of future together, which I think helps Pops soften and actually start to hear his daughter and go, right, maybe you can have a life too. Maybe this way of looking after you that I'm trying to sort of proclaim isn't the only way to do things. So it's a growth for him as well through the course of the film. So yeah, it's an interesting character to play. This grumpy bastard.
How was it filming in Italy, working with all practical sets and locations?
Oh, look, filming in Italy was stunning. Obviously, we were initially at the sort of just below the border of Italy and Austria. So the mountains there are just, you know, the Alps are so stunning. And then we were in Abruzzo, and we were also in Rome in the studio. So of course, I'd never filmed in Italy before. It was a really fantastic experience. The food, of course, is just wonderful. Ridley's worked there many times before, so he knows these crews. He knows how to work there. It was wonderful. I mean, the film is set in Colorado, in the mountains of Colorado and other sort of close by states. But you know, this can pass easily for that world. Yeah, and I think all being practical sets, you know, I find that just always helps. It does half the work for you. You know, you're just there living in this beautiful, remote part of the world. Yeah.
It was beautiful. What makes working with Ridley so unique?
Well, I've worked with Ridley now. This is my third time working with Ridley as a director-actor. I've worked with him a few times with him producing things that I've done. So we have a pretty good working relationship now and a good friendship. He works pretty fast. He has a number of cameras on set, so you're never quite sure who you're playing to, because you know you're doing a wide shot with that camera there, but there might be a camera on the side of a hillside somewhere that's getting a close-up and you don't quite know. So it's slightly unnerving, but at the same time it just makes you focus on the interaction that you're having as an actor to another actor, and he just captures it, and you trust that because he's so experienced. And but you work pretty quickly through scenes, you know, because you're not spending time on a wide shot, spending time on a two shot, spending time on singles. They're all just done at the same time. So you got to be prepared, you've got to know your stuff, but I always am. So yeah, he's just, you know, for a guy that is the age that he is, he's very impressive as far as his energy and his sort of motivation and his inspiration and just his ability to kind of, you know, get stuff done. But it never looks rushed. You look at any film of his and of course it all just looks sumptuous and glorious and wonderful. So yeah, he's fantastic.
Last question. What about the dog stars are you excited for people to experience in IMAX?
I think the thing about this film, about the dog stars, which is what I spoke about a bit in talking about the book and the script, is that there's a sense of hope in this world of this sort of post-apocalyptic world. And I guess, you know, I would hope, I guess, that an audience can tap into all the things that sort of the mundane, sort of small things in the story, as well as the bigger sort of worldwide scope of possibly living in a post-apocalyptic environment. But being able to actually find hope and know that we as human beings have the ability to take a situation that isn't ideal, to understate it, and to turn it into something more sort of positive, which is what I think the film elicits. So I would suggest that, you know, audiences will take that away. I mean, it helps having Jacob Elordi on screen with Margaret Qualley on screen as well, because the two of them look just so sort of like glorious and inspirational. But it's a really emotional story, and I think audiences will feel that, which is always what I think makes a film effective, is if people really feel the emotions of what's behind these characters. Yeah.
Thank you. That was great. Yeah, thank you.